Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Naruto. What if Naruto had crystal release? Part 2. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. And also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created many playlists, check it out in the channel. So let's start the video. Team 7 were jumping through the forests of Konoha, pursuing their target. It was faster than any of them thought it could be. They had used hours tracking it down, and now, for at least 45 minutes, chasing it. But they were gaining in on it. They were so close now. Their target had stopped. Team 7 quickly made their way to different hiding spots around their target. This is Sasuke, arrived at point B. It crackled through the radio. Sakura here, I have reached point C. Naruto here, reached point A. Kakashi was listening in, supervising them. Normally he would have scolded, as much as Kakashi now can scold them for taking so long, but this was no ordinary target. As soon as he heard they had reached their positions, he tapped his radio. If you're all in position, execute capture target T. Team 7 didn't need to hear any more than that. They jumped from their hiding spots, going after the target. It was fast and dodged first Sakura's attempt, then Sasuke's. Naruto, seeing his opportunity, jumped into a tree and came at it from above. It was a success. He grabbed the furball-shaped target. It was, to say the least, not happy. It turned around and began attacking Naruto. The cat Tora was captured. The crackling sound of Kakashi's voice over the radio sounded. Does it have a red ribbon on its right ear? Is it our target, Tora the cat? Sasuke looked lazily over at Naruto, who was getting beaten up by the small brown cat, and Sakura, who was giggling at her teammates' expense. Sasuke tapped his radio. Affirmative, Tora the cat is captured again. All the genin of Team 7 were starting to hate Tora. Since they had graduated 6 weeks ago, they had captured Tora the cat mission 16 times, 17 with this. For some reason the Hokage loved to give their team the most hellish missions. They had all agreed it was because of Kakashi's tardiness. At the mission delegation office, my sweet, dear Tora-chan, I missed you. I was so worried about you. You've gotten yourself really dirty, haven't you, dear? We will have to take a long, wet shower when we come home, a large lady in red said to the hellish cat while hugging it to death, much to the satisfaction of Team 7. They were all grinning evilly at the feline abomination from hell. She turned towards Hiruzen and bowed. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I'm happy you're always willing to help. Then she turned towards Team 7 and thank you for helping. Sandaime nodded, while Kakashi smiled. No problem, Madam Shijimi. We were happy to help. All the genin shot glares at Kakashi. Naruto scoffed mentally. What the hell do you mean with us? You didn't do a damn thing. If we get that mission one more time, I'm gonna kill that hellcat. I would be doing all of Konoha a favor. Sakura is also mentally on the same lines. If you removed your eyes from that abomination of a book, sensei, you could actually help. Madam Shijimi walked over to the Hokage and handed him the payment. Here you are, Hokage-sama. I must be going now, goodbye. Goodbye, Madam Shijimi, and give my regards to Fire Daimyo Dono, the old Hokage said. She nodded at it and made her way out the door. Hiruzen turned towards Team 7 to see Kakashi getting deadly glares from his team. Now Team 7, let's see what we have for you now. He looked through all the mission papers. Here we have it. Council member, you need someone to babysit his child while he is out on business, grocery shopping in a neighboring town, and helping pick up potatoes at one of the Akamichi farms. Oh, come on. We have done nothing but D ranks for almost 2 months. Can't you give us something just a little bit difficult? Naruto exclaimed. Sakura and Sasuke looked annoyed by it, but they had to agree. They too were getting tired of all the easy missions. Kakashi's sweat dropped. You know it's gonna be me who takes all the trash, right? I guess it's revenge for me not helping Tora. Iruka sighed. Naruto, you already know how the ninja rank goes. You're only a newly graduated genin. Until you have trained some more, you can't go on higher ranking missions than D rank. But I'm not the same kid who used to paint over the Hokage monument. I can handle myself. Naruto retorted. The old Hokage looked at one of this year's most promising genin. There is some truth to that. He chuckled lightly while puffing on his pipe. Kakashi, what do you say? Do you think they are ready? Kakashi, who in the meantime had taken up his little orange book, looked over his genin team. They were all looking at him with begging eyes. He took a deep breath. I would say a C rank would suffice. They have been making slow but steady progress. Hiruzen nodded. Very well then. If you insist, I do have a C rank for you then. It's an escort and guard mission to Nami no Kuni. Oh no, who are we supposed to escort then? Sakura asked. Instead of answering Sakura's question, Hiruzen called out towards the door. Tazuna-san, can you please enter? The young teens crinkled their noses from the smell of alcohol as coming in through the door were wobbling a drunk middle-aged man. He had gray hair and a large beard of the same color. He wore glasses with a dark pair of eyes behind them. It took him a few seconds to get his balance. When he finally did, he narrowed his eyes when he saw who the ninja team that was supposed to protect him was made up of. What the hell is this? You're giving me a couple of brats? I mean, the short one doesn't even seem to be 10. They can't have any skill, he slurred out. Naruto narrowed his eyes. He had matured a bit from his old self, but his short height was still a touchy subject. And then he criticized their skill. Naruto smirked, which caused Kakashi to worry. Before any of the people in the room could do anything, a big crystal shot out of the ground, impaling the bottle Tazuna was raising to his mouth, successfully pouring its content all over Tazuna's chest. He blinked a couple of times, very surprised. He wasn't the only one. All the Anbu guards in the room were mentally wide-eyed behind their masks. This was the first time they had seen the Shoton in action. They had of course all heard about it. It was big news when the village got a new Kekkei Genkai. But they didn't show any of this thanks to their years in service. What was it you were saying, Oji-san? Naruto smiled. He didn't get any answer. Behind him, Hiruzen coughed in his hand. Naruto, please don't kill our clients. Wouldn't be good for business, you know. Naruto looked over his shoulder before shrugging. He snapped his fingers and the crystal shattered in tiny microscopic pieces. Tazuna was breathless by the sight of the crystal shimmer in front of him, but composed himself. I am Tazuna, and I'm an expert in bridge building. I will need you to escort me to Nami no Kuni and protect me while I finish it, the old man from Wave said. Kakashi turned towards his team. You heard the man. This is a C rank, so we will probably be away for a few weeks. Go home and pack all that you could need. We meet at the main gate tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto nodded. Good then. Team 7, I expect you back in a few weeks then. Dismissed. With Naruto. The blonde Uzumaki was walking down the main street alone. As soon as they had been dismissed from the mission delegation office, Sasuke had walked towards the Uchiha district with Sakura on his ass. He sighed. I still like Sakura-chan, but the way she acts sometimes I have to find a way to talk to her about it. Most of the time she doesn't act like a kunoichi. Maybe I can use Sasuke to make her act less fangirlish. He was making his way to Higurashi weapon shop to buy different ninja tools for the upcoming mission. He had thought he had it all at home, but no such luck. He couldn't wait till he was better at Fuinjutsu so he could make the exploding tags himself, but it was so damn hard to understand. He was only 1/4 of the way through the first beginner book. He had learned to make sealing scrolls, and he was good at it, but the rest went slowly. It didn't really help with clones, since it was him that had a hard time understanding it. But he was making progress, slow and steady. He was brought out of his thoughts when he almost bumped into someone on the street. He quickly got out of the stranger's way. He wasn't going to give the villagers any excuses to hate him more. Though, since he had graduated, they were concealing it more. He had made his way to the weapon shop. He was hoping to see Tenten there. He hadn't seen her in 3 weeks. She had been given a mission, so she was away, and now he was going on one. If he didn't see her, it would probably be a few weeks more. He stepped inside and was delighted to hear a familiar voice. Welcome to Higari. Hey Naruto. Tenten said, making her way out from the counter to give him a quick hug. They may only have known each other for a few weeks, but Tenten had become his best friend, if not because she was his first. When she was done, she took a good look at him. It's good to see you again. Now, did you come to buy, or just to say hey to little old me? She smiled at him. Naruto smiled back. Well, kind of both. You see, my team has gotten its first C rank mission, so I need to restock all my ninja tools, like explosion tags, smoke, and flash bombs, things like that. And then I hope to run into you before I was going away. She nodded and began to take all the different articles from the shelves and put them on the counter. When she got to the kunai and shuriken, Naruto shook his head. I won't need those. Tenten frowned. I know you told me you like hand-to-hand combat and ninjutsu combat more, but you will need weapons. That wasn't what I meant. Naruto looked around the store just to make sure they were alone. While most of the higher-ups ninja knew of his Shoton abilities, there weren't many others that did, and he planned to keep it that way for as long as he could. "I can make them myself," he said, holding his hand up, conjuring a crystal shuriken. Tenten gasped. "How did you do that?" She motioned to take it, but quickly stopped herself and looked at him. "Can I take a look at it?" Naruto nodded. She took it from his hand and looked closer at it. She was, to say the least, impressed. There were such details, and she couldn't find any weakness in the way it was built, even though it should be fragile. In fact, it was the opposite, it was sturdy. When she was done, she made motion to return it to Naruto, but he shook his head. "You keep it, I can make 1,000 others in no time." She smiled at him, bigger than before. She put it down in her pocket, making sure it was safe. She looked at him again. "You still haven't answered my question. How did you do that?" Naruto's face turned serious. "You can't tell this to anyone, okay?" She nodded. She wasn't going to betray one of her closest friends. "I have Shoton Kekkei Genkai. I found out just after I graduated, and before you ask, yes, the Hokage knows, and so does all the higher-up shinobi." Tenten was stunned, but regained herself somewhat. "So, how does it work?" "Well, I haven't really figured it all out yet, but it seems like I can crystallize anything with a mass, such as earth, water, wood, and so on. But I can't crystallize energy, such as lightning, wind, and chakra. The only exception is my own chakra. I'm guessing it's because I'm so tuned into it. If I had to guess, I would think that if I spent enough time on, let's say, a lightning bolt, I would be able to crystallize it. But because it only lasts for a few seconds at most, I wouldn't be able to do it. And all lightning bolts have a different energy signature, so it wouldn't help to try it out on 1,000 different." Tenten nodded, satisfied with the explanation. She was happy he was willing to share like that to her. She could see it was one of his big secrets. He still wouldn't tell her why all the villagers seemed to hate him so much, but she guessed it was just a matter of time. She walked over to the cash register and typed in all the items Naruto was planning to buy. "Okay, that will be 865 yen. Naruto took the money out of his wallet, Gama-chan, and put it on the counter before putting all the items in various pockets in his outfit. Tenten was still amused by his little frog wallet and the fact that he had named it. "Tenten, do you want to go grab something to eat?" "I probably won't be back for a few weeks," Naruto asked. Tenten looked thoughtful for a second. "I just got to ask Dad if he can watch the counter." She ran out back for 20 seconds and came back with a smile. "It won't be a problem." "Now, where do you want to go?" she asked, already knowing the answer. Naruto smirked at her. "Do you really have to ask?" "Ichiraku Ramen, of course." 30 minutes later at Ichiraku Ramen, Naruto and Tenten walked into the small stand. "Hey Tuchi Aja-san, Ayam Nisan." Tuchi and Ayam, who were standing and making noodles, turned around to face where the voice had come from. Ayam was the first to speak. "Naruto-kun and Tenten-san. Let me guess? The usual?" she asked with a smile. Both nodded. "You bet, Nisan." The old ramen stand owner chuckled deeply, coming right up. Both of them turned to continue making the noodles and soup. While they were waiting for the ramen, Naruto turned towards it. "By the way, you never told what your mission was about." "I got told you were on one from Kaido." "Yeah, sorry about that. I tried to find you, but obviously couldn't, and we had to go fast. My sensei is rather eccentric, and he makes everything into a competition," she said, dropping her head at the end. Guy was a good sensei and all, but she could use a holiday from all the craziness. "No worries. Now, what was your mission about?" "There had been some bandit raids on some small villagers down by the border to Kawa-no-Kuni, so the villagers had hired us to track them down and take care of them." Tenten told Naruto about the mission, how they had gone from village to get information, and how they tracked down and took care of the bandit groups in the area. In the meantime, they had gotten their ramen, and Naruto was on his third. "Sounds like you had your work cut out for you, huh?" Naruto asked, inhaling some more noodles. Tenten looked at her friend with a smile. She had tried more than once to get Naruto to eat with some manners. She had had some success with dango, but with noodles, according to Naruto, it was Kami's gift to mankind, and he couldn't get enough of it. "Yeah, but I have a good team. I trust them, no matter how weird they can be." Naruto sighed. "I wish I had a team like that." "Is it still about Sasuke?" "Yeah. He just doesn't want to work or train together. He said that I would drag him down," and he made quotation marks in the air to what Sasuke had said. "I just can't win with that guy. I'm probably one of the people in the village who understand him the most. I never knew my parents. Of course I can't put myself in his place. To have all that love just for it to get taken away." He trailed off. Tenten could see he didn't like to talk about that, so she tried to get the conversation to move on. "Then what about that girl? Sakura was her name." "Yeah, Sakura. Well, she is nicer to me than she was at the academy, but she doesn't really act like a kunoichi. She is all about diets, her hair, what clothes she wears, and if Sasuke likes it. I like her, but I wish I could talk some sense into her." Ouch. I had a couple of fan girls in my class too. They haven't really made it far, so it would be good if you could talk to her. He nodded at that. She took another mouthful of ramen. "Now I've told you about my mission, why don't you tell me about yours? It was your first C rank, right?" Naruto brightened up when she asked. She loved her blonde friend's antics. "Yes, it's our first C rank. We're supposed to escort some old drunk named Tazuna to Nami no Kuni and then guard him while he finishes some bridge there." Tenten shook her head at her friend's bluntness at describing people. He hadn't really learned what should be thought and not said. "Well, good luck then. It's a C rank, so you shouldn't get into something you can't handle. Especially with your little gift," she said, referring to his crystal powers. Naruto nodded thanks. They were silent for a bit while eating their food. Naruto broke the silence. "Do you have any chakra weights at your shop? I read that they can help you with your speed and strength. I was really planning to wait till I could make restriction seals, but it's going slower than I had anticipated. So for now, I will have to go with weights. I tried to look for them while you were gone, but couldn't find any, and I never got to ask Kaido." Tenten finished what ramen she had in her mouth. "You wouldn't be able to find them. There aren't many that buy them, so we will have to order them. I can do it later back at the shop. They should be here when you're back from your mission." "Thanks," Naruto said, taking another inhalation of ramen, now on his fifth bowl. "So it's here where you were hiding? And with a girl nonetheless. I'm so proud. I hope I didn't interrupt anything," when a voice came from behind them. Both of the genin spun around on their chairs to be faced with a big white-haired man. "Iro-senin. It's nothing like that. Kami, you're such a pervert," Naruto said a little high. "Damn it, Gaki, how many times have I told you not to call me that, and it's super pervert, thank you." Jiraiya responded, puffing a bit. Tenten watched as the two kept bickering. She knew she had seen the old man somewhere before. Then it hit her. It was Jiraiya. Tsunade's, her idol, old teammate. "Naruto. You really shouldn't call someone like Jiraiya that." "Sorry, Jiraiya-sama," she said while bowing. Naruto scoffed. "You wouldn't say that if you knew him. And you heard what he said, he is a super pervert." Tenten looked from Naruto to Jiraiya. "Well, he did say that. But someone with that much skill and such a high rank can't be a pervert. Can he? Now, Naruto. Don't get into a fight with your girlfriend," Jiraiya said with a smirk, causing both of the genin to blush. Naruto was the first to say, "Damn it, Iro-senin. I told you it isn't like that." He paused for a few seconds. "Now that I think about it, why are you here? I thought you were out of the village?" Jiraiya smiled at his part-time student. "I was, but I'm back to report to sensei, and he told me that you're going on your first C rank?" "You bet I am," was Naruto's answer. "Okay, in that case I got a new exercise for you," the white-haired man said, taking off his backpack and looking through it. Now Naruto was excited. As much as a pervert the old sage was, he was a good teacher and always had new things Naruto could do. He got more and more excited the longer it took Jiraiya to find whatever it was he was looking for. His excitement plummeted when Jiraiya took up what looked like a water balloon and gave it to Naruto. Naruto looked curious and a little disappointed at Jiraiya. Jiraiya sighed. "It's the first step to a jutsu. And before you ask, no, I won't show you before you have at least mastered the second stage. There are 3 stages. Are you sure you won't show me the jutsu?" Jiraiya shook his head. Naruto sighed. "Fine, but what am I supposed to do?" This Jiraiya took out another balloon. First nothing happened, but then small lumps began to appear on the surface before it burst. Naruto and Tenten looked curiously at his hand, where the balloon had been before. "You have to burst it open by using your chakra alone. Just rotate the water inside it." Jiraiya took out a scroll. "Here I have sealed a lot of balloons inside it. It won't be easy, but if you manage to finish it before I get back, I'll give the second stage to Kakashi. For the third stage, you will have to wait for me." Naruto took the scroll and put it down in his pocket. "Thank you, Iro-senin." Jiraiya nodded at him. before waving and walking away. Naruto turned back to his ramen just to see Tenten look accusingly at him. What? What? You're learning from Jiraiya-sama, one of the Densetsu no Sannin, and you don't tell me? I didn't think it was that important. Besides, he doesn't really train me. Kakashi-sensei is my sensei, though he doesn't train me much either. Tenten sighed. Just promise me, if you ever get to meet Tsunade-sama, and you get the chance, please introduce me to her. Will do, Naruto said, smiling. He knew that Tsunade was Tenten's idol, and that she held her in very high regard. He finished his bowl. Oh well, I'm full now. How about you? Tenten looked at him with an amused look. I have been done for 20 minutes. Naruto chuckled at that. Well, thank you for staying then. No problem. What are friends for, right? Right. And with that they paid for their meal, said their goodbyes, and walked each way. Next morning at Konoha main gate, 11 a.m. Where are your sensei? He should have been here 3 hours ago. Tazuna said rather irritatedly, I knew you weren't worth anything. Sakura and Sasuke shot him a glare. Naruto just kept reading his book. He may have lost it a bit when he first met the old drunk, but he wasn't gonna let that happen again. He was aiming to be a top-notch shinobi of Konoha. Naruto looked up from his book. Well, it's almost 11 now, so he should be here any minute. He is always at least 3 hours late. And, as if called upon, a puff of smoke appeared in the middle of the road, with Kakashi in the middle of it. You're late. Sakura screeched, making everyone else wince at the volume of her voice. Sorry. You see, a cat crossed my path, so I had to take another way, and then I saw an old lady trying to get across the street, and I just had to stop to help her over. All the people present just gave him a look that said, you don't really think you're fooling anyone, do you? Anyway, it seems like we're all here, so let's get going. Remember all the stuff you have packed. Sasuke scoffed, but picked up his backpack. He took a look at Naruto. He couldn't see any backpack. Dobe, aren't you forgetting something? Naruto was putting his book down in his pocket. No, what should that be? It was Sakura who answered. What about the things you should have packed? Naruto shrugged and held up 2 scrolls. It's here. Way easier than carrying around a heavy backpack. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. He had seen that Naruto was reading Fuinjutsu books, but he didn't think he was this far in it. He stopped Sakura and Sasuke from digging more into it. Okay, it seems you all have your stuff, so let's get going. With that, Tazuna and Team 7 walked out the gate, making their way to Nami no Kuni. Team 7 was walking down a road in the middle of the forest surrounding Konoha. They had only left said village a few hours ago and had some days of journey ahead of them. Tazuna was walking in the middle of the group, with Kakashi walking behind the rest, pretending to read his little orange book while giggling perversely to complete the illusion. He didn't think much was going to happen on this mission, maybe a few thugs, 1 or 2 bandits, but nothing his team couldn't handle. But he knew he had to keep an eye out. He was responsible for the safety of his team, and he wouldn't let anything happen to them, even if it meant giving his own life in the process. In the front, Sasuke was walking, with Sakura trying to get his attention by trying to start a conversation, but she wasn't very successful. All she got in return was scoffs, and if she were lucky, a couple of HN from didn't matter that much to her. She just kept telling Sasuke of her life, all the things she wanted for the future, and so on. Naruto was walking on the right side of Tazuna while enjoying the day. He was working on the water balloon that Jiraiya gave him, but he hadn't had much luck. So far it would only bend one way, noting what Jiraiya's balloon had looked like. But he kept trying. He looked over at Sakura and Sasuke. Now she even let her fangirlish tendencies disrupt missions. She is supposed to walk on Tazuna Ajisan's left side to guard him. I guess it doesn't matter much right now. This is only a C rank, but I really got to figure a way to get into her head that she got to start taking being a kunoichi seriously. If not, she could be killed, or one of us could try to protect her. Eventually she ran out of things to talk to Sasuke about and turned towards Tazuna. Tazuna-san, can I ask you about something? Tazuna looked at the little pink-haired girl. What is it? You're from Nami no Kuni, right? She asked curiously. What about it? He asked, just a little irritated. Tazuna was an old man, and he wasn't known for his patience. I was just wondering why you didn't use ninjas from your own country? Don't you have a village there? It was Kakashi who answered. No, there are no ninjas in Nami no Kuni. Some countries are too small, too poor, or simply don't want or need a ninja village. For Nami it's the latter. It's remote and isn't influenced easily by other countries, so there is no need for a ninja village. If a small country, like Nami, needs help from shinobi, they get it from a village from another country, like Konoha. Tazuna nodded and left it at that. After that they walked in silence, only interrupted by Sakura trying to get Sasuke to talk again from time to time. They continued like that for a few more hours. They were almost out of the forest when Naruto noticed something. It was a little pool of water in the middle of the road. He frowned. That's odd. It hasn't rained for over 2 weeks. In fact, it has been quite the opposite. There haven't been more than a few clouds in heaven, and it's been baking hot. And yet, here in the middle of the road, in a month where the sun has been high in the sky, there is a water puddle. He thought for a few seconds, trying to figure out how it could be. Could it be? He looked back at Kakashi, who subtly nodded without taking his eyes off his book. They continued forward. They passed the puddle without either Sakura or Sasuke noticing the oddity. When they had passed it by a few meters, it quietly morphed into 2 persons. Kakashi and Naruto had noticed it, but didn't show it. Quickly, one of the persons threw the other, retracting the kunai chain that was connecting the 2 through gauntlets. They quickly wrapped Kakashi in it before stopping on each side of him. The rest of the group turned around. Tazuna, Sasuke, and Sakura looked shocked, while Naruto acted like it, but in reality he knew that Kakashi had a plan. Naruto took a closer look at the 2 now obvious shinobi and saw their hit I8 Kurigakure. What are Kiri-nin doing here? The 2 Kiri-nin retracted the kunai chain, slicing what appeared to be Kakashi in half. First one down, the one on the left said. They quickly disappeared in a blur of speed, only to reappear behind Naruto's second one. Their chain began to extend out, trying to wrap itself around Naruto. He wouldn't have any of that. He stomped in the ground, making a small wall of crystal appear between him and the Kiri-nins. They were stunned, and before they could react, a shuriken followed by a kunai impaled their chain on a tree behind them. Sasuke was up in the air going through some hand signs. He took a deep breath before spewing out a large fireball kaiten, Gakakyu no Jutsu. The Kiri-nin tried to pull the chain out of the tree, but quickly realized that they couldn't. They snapped the chain from their gauntlet and dodged by jumping each way, but they weren't finished yet. One of them charged towards Sasuke and the other towards Tazuna, both planning to strike their target down with their claw. Sakura quickly got in front of Tazuna with a kunai in her hand. I have to protect him. He is our charge, but how? How can I do this? She trembled lightly. Stay back, Tazuna-san. Naruto saw this. He wasn't concerned about Sasuke. As much as an ass he was, he could take care of himself. But it was another story with Sakura. This was exactly what he had feared might happen. He saw the Kiri-nin get closer and closer to the pink-haired Kunoichi and knew he had to do something fast. Quickly he went through hand signs and slapped his hand down on the ground. Shoton, Susho no Hashira. Before the shinobi from Kiri could react, he was shot 7 meters into the air by a crystal pillar that had appeared under him. He narrowed his eyes when he looked down and saw the blonde ninja holding his hand palm on the ground. Naruto smirked. Your battle is with me. Naruto quickly glanced over at Sasuke before his own battle started. He was doing okay, as far as he could see. He was dodging most attacks and quickly jumping to counter. He looked back at his own opponent who was jumping down from the pillar. He looked at Sakura. His eyes were full of fear. He nodded at her with a smile. It seemed to help a little as she tried to smile and nodded back at him. Naruto jumped back to dodge the claw that was slashing at him from above. The Kiri-nin was glaring at him. Naruto just smirked. Now, you can't expect me to nicely stay in one place. That would just be too easy, now wouldn't it? He only got a growl in response. The Kiri-nin began slashing at Naruto, who dodged it each and every time. Naruto jumped back after 30 seconds of that and laughed a bit. You will have to do better than that. Sasuke heard Naruto laugh and looked over to see how easily he was handling his opponent. It angered him. Trying to show me up, are you done? Not going to work. I'm gonna get my opponent down in no time. He thought as he ducked under yet another strike, only to counter with a kick in the stomach, which pushed his opponent back a meter or 2. He charged his opponent and unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks from his Uchiha style. This caused him to be left open, not going unnoticed by the Kiri-nin. He slashed towards Sasuke's not open ribs. Sasuke saw it, but couldn't block it. He wasn't fast enough. Just before it hit, a couple of crystals shot up from the ground, blocking the attack. Team, get your game together. I can't fight both of our fights, Naruto yelled, jumping over a strike and kicking his opponent in the face. Sasuke scoffed. In Naruto's fight, he was the clear superior. The longer they fought, the more of an advantage he had. The Kiri-nin kept slashing at him, exhausting himself like that. Sasuke's were another story. They were close to equals, and it didn't help that Sasuke didn't keep his head cool. He tried to prove himself because of how good Naruto was doing, resulting in him getting bruises here and there, but no cuts so far. Naruto winced when his opponent finally got him. He had a scratch across the back of his hand. Naruto decided that he had had enough of it. Sasuke, throw yours over here. Sasuke looked annoyed by the fact that his blonde teammate was giving him orders, but complied. The next time his opponent slashed at him, he grabbed his arms and threw him over at Naruto's opponent. They knocked each other to the ground, and Naruto went through a seal called Keso Purizumu. 3 glass-thin red crystals grew out of the ground, encasing the Kiri-nin in a prism. But Naruto didn't stop there. He went through another set of seals before slamming his hand on the red crystal Shoton, Baningu Kazoku. From the sides of the crystal prism, chains shot out, wrapping around the 2 enemy shinobi. When it was done, Naruto lowered the prism, only leaving the 2 Kiri-nin sitting on the ground. Before they could react, Naruto knocked them both out by slamming them on the neck. That's when Kakashi came out of the tree line clapping. "Very good, I'm impressed," he said with a nice smile. Sakura and Sasuke watched him with wide eyes before glancing over where they thought they had seen him getting sliced in half. There were only wood pieces left, clear evidence of a kawarimi. Naruto just watched passively. He didn't think there was a way for Kakashi to get taken down by 2 ninja of that caliber. Tazuna scoffed. "Why didn't you help your students? They could have died." "I knew I should have asked for some better shinobi," he said, not sounding a little bit irritated. Kakashi looked back at him without emotion. "I was standing in the tree line all the time, ready to jump in at any moment if the need arose." He paused, walking over to the Kiri-nin, checking the chains. He took them up and began walking over to a thick tree, taking out his own chains. "Now, isn't there something you would like to tell us? Those 2 are the demon brothers of Kiri, Gozu, and Maizu. They are 2 C rank missing nin. Willithy could have been after one of us, but that is highly unlikely. For one reason. These 3" Kakashi gestured towards his team, as newly graduated ninja. "They haven't made their name yet. It's true they could have been after me, but I don't have anything standing with Kiri. Another reason is that we just got assigned to this mission. Not even the Hokage knew we were going to get it before we did. So that only leaves you." Kakashi continuing, while tying up the demon brothers. Tazuna gulped. Kakashi ignored it for now and turned towards Naruto. "You can dispel your chains now." Naruto nodded and snapped his fingers, making his chains shatter. While Naruto didn't need to snap, he loved how it looked. But to give him some credit, he was still a 12-year-old, ninja or not. Kakashi saw the cut at Naruto's hand. "Naruto, their blades are poisoned, don't move too much or the poison will spread." Kakashi turned towards Tazuna. "I'll ask you more directly. Are there any reasons for 2 missing nin to be after you? Because we haven't heard anything about you being targeted by missing nins. Your request was to protect you from armed groups like thugs or robbers. This is a mission that's above C rank, possibly B rank, borderline A rank. Our mission was to support and guard you until you completed the bridge. If ninja are our enemy, this mission would have been an expensive B or A rank. It looks like you have your reasons, but it only troubles us if you lie in your request details." This gesture to the demon brothers wasn't a part of the mission. That's when Sakura spoke up. "This mission is out of our league. We may have been able to defeat these, but they couldn't have been more than high gen into low chunin level skill-wise. If whoever is after you sends stronger shinobi, we will be in trouble. Let's quit. We also need anesthesia to take out the poison blood out of Naruto. We need to go back to the village and see a doctor." In the weeks since they had graduated, Naruto had grown at her. While she still found him annoying from time to time, and she didn't like the way he acted towards Sasuke, she had started to respect him for his skills. Something she never thought she would in the academy. "No, that's not needed." The group looked at Naruto. Naruto looked at Sakura. "Can I borrow a kunai please?" She was weary, not knowing what he was going to do, but lent him one. As soon as he had it in his hand, he quickly stabbed the back of his hand, forcing a lot of blood out. Sakura gasped, "What are you doing, Baka?" Naruto shrugged, "The mission is still on." "Naruto, it's nice that you took out the poisoned blood and all, but you're going to die from loss of blood if any more comes out," Kakashi said with a carefree voice. Naruto just laughed at the comment, as if that could happen. He knew of Kyuubi's regenerative abilities. He dried off the blood from the kunai and handed it to Sakura. "Thanks for lending it to me." He then went on to drying off his hand in the grass before continuing walking down the path. Kakashi soon followed, with the rest of the group close behind. He watched the hand and could see it was already healing, so that's what he meant. It must be Kyuubi's power. He knows more about it than I would have thought. Fortress, unknown location, failed. I spent a lot of money to hire all of you because I heard you all were skilled ninja, a short man in a business suit said, looking at a larger man who was sitting in a throne-like chair. "Stop complaining." The man in the chair sneered, swinging a big butcher-like knife at the shorter man just to stop inches from his throat. "I'll use this decapitating knife and kill those guys." The shorter man didn't seem to believe he could do it and started talking in a mocking tone. "Do you really think you will be okay? It looks like the enemy has hired good shinobi, and since the demon brothers failed in the assassination, they'll be more cautious, so it won't be easy." "Who do you think I am?" the sword-wielding person said, not liking the tone the shorter man was speaking to him in. "I, Mamachi Zabuza, was called the demon of Kurigakure." The shorter man looked at him. "Fine, do what you want. But I expect him to be dead, and soon," he said, walking away. Team 7 campsite later that night, Naruto was sitting on a hill at the edge of the camp. Kakashi had taken the first watch, and he was taking the second. He was sitting reading a book on Fuinjutsu. He almost understood the concept behind the explosion tags. But he knew he couldn't make them yet. He made a note to himself to have his clones work on his handwriting. He wasn't ashamed to say that it sucked. He hadn't really needed it until now. He heard footsteps behind and looked over his shoulder to see Sakura walking towards him. He turned to his book again. "Can't sleep?" No, her voice sounded behind him. "I was, hey. Aren't you supposed to keep watch?" she asked a little accusingly. Naruto didn't answer. Instead, he pointed to places at the edge of the camp. She looked to see a couple of cage bunchin. "Oh, sorry." "No problem." He flipped a page. "Why can't you sleep?" She hesitated. She didn't really know if she wanted to share this with Naruto. She sighed and sat down a meter beside him. "I keep thinking about the battle. And now, how tired Sasuke is because of it I don't know." This time it was Naruto's turn to hesitate. This was the moment he had waited for. The moment he could try to get her to act more like a kunoichi instead of a fangirl. "I have some advice." She just looked at him as he continued. "You need to get it together. We're shinobi now, we aren't just students. If it had been only you today, Tazuna, and you would have been killed." Sakura frowned. She didn't like it, but he was right. "What would you have me do then?" "Stop being a fangirl," was the response. "I'm not a fangirl." Naruto looked up from his book and gave her a look that said, "Are you kidding me?" She sighed. "Okay, maybe just a little bit." Naruto shook his head with an amused grin on his lips. "Try to take being a kunoichi more seriously. Don't go on a diet, you need the energy the food gives you. If you train without it, you will just become skinny. And not the good skinny you want, I mean bad unhealthy skinny. I don't think Sasuke would like that very much." She blushed like she had just found out her secret crush and then started training. "Stop caring so much about your clothes, hair, and so on. Start focusing on training more." He paused, and for the record, it may even help your chances with Sasuke. It hurt a bit to say that to the girl he had a crush on. Sasuke is attracted to power. So if you become a powerful kunoichi, you may even get him. Sakura nodded. She didn't like everything that was said. She needed to think about it. She rose and started walking back to her tent, but stopped and turned halfway around. "Thank you, Naruto." Naruto just lifted his hand and half waved without looking up from his book, as if to say no problem. She walked to her tent and tried to get some sleep before her watch was coming up. However, her thoughts lingered some, especially on the new attitude of their blonde teammate. He changed so much since the academy, and ever since learning he has a Kekkei Genkai, he has been more responsible. He still acts only a little goofy, but he does not even ask me out on dates anymore. For whatever reason, she felt a ping in her heart from that. He still calls her Sakura-chan, but overall he has acted much more appropriately to her. Yet something still muled at her. "I really like Naruto, but I kind of miss the old one." Early next morning, Team 7 and Tazuna sailed in a little boat in the thick morning mist. They were sailing from the mainland to the largest island of Nami no Kuni. The boat didn't even have a motor, it was propelled forward by a guy who was slowly paddling, trying to make as little noise as possible. The mist is so thick. I can't see anything in it, Sakura stated. No one answered her right away, but Tazuna broke the silence. We should be able to see the bridge soon. If we sail alongside the bridge, we should be in Nami no Kuni soon, the paddling guy said. And, as if on command, the bridge appeared out of the mist. The genin were stunned. It was huge. They had never seen anything like it. Wow, that's unbelievable. Naruto said a little highly, while the other genin nodded in agreement. The paddling guy didn't like it. Hey, be quiet. We're using this boat and hiding in the mist. That's why I'm rowing instead of using an engine. In other words, if we get caught, we'll be in serious trouble. Sorry, Naruto said slowly. Kakashi was looking at the old bridge builder Tazuna-san. Before the boat gets to the pier, there's something I need to ask you. Tazuna looked like he knew what was coming. Who are the people who are after you, and why are they after you? That or we call the mission when you get ashore and return to Konoha. All the eyes of the Konoha shinobi were on Tazuna. It looked like I had to tell you the real story. I mean, I would like for you to hear my story. As you said, he nodded towards Sakura. This mission is most likely out of your job description and capabilities. He paused. No one was commenting, just looking at him intensely. An extremely terrible man is after my life. Who is it? Sakura asked. You should have all at least heard of the name marine transportation billionaire Gato. That surprised Kakashi. Gato? The one from the Gato company? He's one of the richest men on the elemental continent. Tazuna nodded. Yeah, he is the president of the Gato company on the outside. But underground he uses gangs and ninjas to smuggle drugs and contraband goods. He also does a nasty jobs like takeovers of other companies and small countries. And 1 year ago, he set his sight on Nami no Kuni. He entered this country using violence and wealth as his shield, and he quickly took over the island's sea traffic and transportation. Of course, Naruto said, bringing all eyes on him. Of course, what dope? Sasuke asked, irritated that Naruto apparently figured something out before him. If you wanted to take over a country like Nami, what would be the first thing you were going to do? Neither Sakura nor Sasuke answered him. Take over the shipping industry. If you control that, you control everything in a country like this. They use the shipping industry to get things from the mainland, to transport stuff between the islands, and so on. In a country like Nami, controlling the sea means ruling over the wealth, politics, and the people. By taking over the shipping industry, you effectively control close to everything in a country like this. Sakura was wide-eyed. He actually paid attention. I thought he slept through the studies? You're quite right. Tazuna nodded in agreement, and the one thing Gato fears is the completion of my bridge, which has been under construction for quite some time. Sakura seemed to be thinking I see. So you, as the one building the bridge, became an obstacle to him. Then those ninjas were sent by Gato, Sasuke concluded. Kakashi turned back to look at Tazuna. But what I don't understand is this. He's a dangerous man that uses shinobi. Why did you hide that fact when you came to us? It wasn't him that answered, but Naruto. Isn't it obvious, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi looked at Naruto and said, Gato has taken over the economy of this place, so the people here can't have much money to begin with. And then add the fact that they are building the bridge, they have even less. I'm guessing they didn't have enough money to pay for a higher-ranking mission. But if you ask me, Sandaime Jiji would probably have made a deal with you guys, though you wouldn't know that. You're right again. Nami no Kuni is a really poor country. Even the feudal lord doesn't have much money. We don't have the money to request for an expensive beer anchor above mission. If you quit your mission after I land, I'll be killed for sure while I go home. He paused, but there's no need for you to blame yourselves. Only my cute 8-year-old grandson will cry, and cry, and cry some more. Naruto got a feeling he knew where this was going. And my daughter will hold a grudge against Konoha and its shinobi and live a lonely life. He paused again, looking around at the sweat-dropped faces of Konoha nin. But it's not your fault. Kakashi seemed to be thinking for a second. I guess it can't be helped then. We will continue to escort you. That's good to hear. It hadn't been much longer after that conversation before they had seen shore. Now they were walking down one of the many paths in Nami no Kuni to Tazuna's home. Team 7 was on guard, now that they knew what they were up to, knew that Gato probably would send stronger shinobi next time. They were walking cautiously down one of the many roads in Wave. They were surrounding Tazuna, Kakashi taking the rear, Naruto taking the front, Sasuke and Sakura taking the flanks. Suddenly Naruto conjured a couple of shuriken and threw them into some bushes. The rest of the team stopped in their tracks, holding their kunai in defensive positions. They kept their guard up. Then Naruto blinked a few times. Sorry, I thought I heard something over there. You're such a dope, Sasuke said, putting his kunai down his kunai holder again. Kakashi nodded at Naruto before heading over to move it away, finding a dead white furred bunny. Kakashi frowned. That's a snow rabbit. But what's with the color of its fur? They only have white fur during winter, when the days are short. He looked around the tree line, trying to spot anyone close by. That means it is a rabbit that was raised inside a place where the sun isn't a factor, highly likely for the Kawarimi no Jutsu. He kept looking around, not going unnoticed by Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke had been shown up by Naruto more than he liked in the past few days. They readied themselves. Kakashi spotted a sliver of silver in the corner of his eye. Everyone, get down. A big butcher-like sword was flying through the air, heading towards where Tazuna was standing. Naruto took action first, grabbing Tazuna's sleeve and ducked, forcing the old man with him. Sasuke wasn't far behind, grabbing Sakura's wrist. The sword flew over their heads by mere centimeters before hitting and embedding itself in a tree behind them. A man appeared on the handle of the sword. Sharingan no Kakashi. I see. Shinobi on the level of the demon brothers couldn't have handled you. The man looked over the Konoha in. Kakashi stepped forward. That may very well be, but it wasn't me who took them down. It was my team. Kakashi looked at the man. Sasuke meanwhile reacted on the Sharingan part. Kakashi-sensei has Sharingan, but I thought only members of my clan had it. He frowned, then smiled a bit, as much as Sasuke can smile anyway. I guess I can learn a thing or two from him after all. Mamachi Zabuza, also known as the Demon of the Hidden Mist. Current status. Missing Nin. Forced into hiding after an unsuccessful coup d'etat against a Yonde Mizukage, Kakashi looked back at his team. Team, stay back. You'll only get in the way. Sasuke scoffed at her. Why? We took the demon brothers down pretty easy now. It was Naruto's turn to scoff. Sasuke turned towards him. Do you have something to say? Yeah, the demon brothers must have hit your head pretty hard. The demon brothers were high genin to low chunin level. Mamachi Zabuza, on the other hand, is at low to mid anbu level. We wouldn't stand a chance. The only one on our team who has a chance is Kakashi-sensei, and the best teamwork we can offer him right now is to stay out of his way. Naruto was so glad he had talked the old Hokage into giving him one of the bingo books. He had memorized it, so he would know when to fight and when to run. Sasuke just scoffed. Kakashi nodded approvingly back at Naruto. Now, we can do this in one of two ways. 1. You simply hand over the old man, and I let you go without a scratch. Zabuza's voice sounded. Then he smirked, jumping down from his spot on the sword, taking it with him down or 2. You refuse, and I kill you all before you can count to 5. He finished, getting into his battle stance. Kakashi looked seriously at Zabuza. If he is our enemy, Kakashi moved his hand up towards his hit-I-8, pulling it up slightly. I can't afford to hold back. He pushed the hit-I-8 the rest of the way up, exposing his left eye, the Sharingan. He turned his face slightly to see his team out of the corner of his eye. Everyone, from the swastika formation. Protect Tazuna and the 3 genin were fast, taking the position, Tazuna in the middle, with the 3 genin standing around, Sakura and Sasuke having regular kunai up in front of them, and Naruto having a crystal version. Oh, I'm honored. I get to see the famous Sharingan right off the bat. This will be interesting, he continued while a thick mist was forming, but let's cut the chit-chat now. He vanished in a blur of speed before reappearing on top of a lake. The 3 genin were surprised and impressed by the speed, but it quickly turned into fear. They realized they didn't have a chance whatsoever against him. Zabuza stood with half the ram sign in front of his chest while his other arm was pointing up. The water under him started to make small waves while water particles swirled around him. He's putting a lot of chakra into the water, Kakashi noticed. He brought up his kunai, ready to charge. He didn't make it before Zabuza casted his jutsu. Kurigakure no Jutsu. The mist peaked. Team 7 couldn't see 3 feet in front of them. The genin couldn't see Kakashi anymore and tightened up their stance. 8 points sounded from everywhere and nowhere. The larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular vein, collarbone, kidney, and the heart. 8 points. I need to strike once, and you're dead, the genin shuddered. Now, how do you wish to die? Kakashi, also hearing this, summoned a bunch of chakra, making a small shockwave, effectively pushing away the mist just around him and his team. Sasuke was frozen in fear. What an intense thirst for blood. One breathing motion or one eye movement will be detected and it'll get me killed. What an atmosphere. If I stay here much longer, I'll go insane. Sasuke started trembling now. Sasuke, Kakashi's voice sounded. Don't worry. I'll protect the three of you with my life. I won't let anyone on my team die, he said with an ice smile. I wonder about that, Kakashi Zabuza's voice sounded again, right before he appeared in between the three genin. Kakashi reacted fast, charging at Zabuza, pushing him back. Zabuza was wide-eyed. The fight begins now, Kakashi said, slashing at Zabuza with impressive speed. The missing nin simply jumped back, dodging the slash. Before he had landed, Kakashi brought up 3 more kunai, casting them towards Zabuza. He dodged one, but the others hit their marks, 1 dead center in the forehead and 2 in the chest. Zabuza was standing still before beginning to leak water. That's when another figure appeared behind with a slashing motion. Sensei, watch out. Behind you. Sakura yelled, but too late. Kakashi was cut in half. The time seemed to slow down for the genin before what they had thought to be Kakashi burst into water. Zabuza looked wide-eyed. He copied my jutsu. I didn't even see him make the hand signs. Kakashi appeared behind Zabuza, holding up a kunai close to his throat. Zabuza sliced his sword towards Kakashi, who quickly blocked it with his kunai. He hadn't expected the force though, and was forced out on the lake. Zabuza was close behind, standing a couple of meters away facing his opponent. I must say, you live up to your nickname, Copy Ninja Kakashi. I am impressed, and I'm not easily impressed by what Zabuza voiced. But now we're in my element. He started making hand signs. Kakashi did the same signs at the exact same moment. When they were through with the signs, both of them yelled Suiton, Suryutan no Jutsu. 2 great dragons shaped out of water morphed out of the waters, heading for the other. They collided with great force that caused a shockwave. The 2 jounin guarded themselves. Zabuza looked in shock at his opponent. How did he do that? He didn't simply copy my jutsu. He used it the exact same time. Could he be reading my mind? It came from Kakashi. Zabuza looked even more shocked than more, but quickly reined it in. I don't know what you did, but it ends here. Zabuza charged again, closing in, forcing the 2 shinobi to use Jujutsu. Zabuza sliced at his opponent, but Kakashi blocked with his kunai. Zabuza frowned, putting more force into it. He won the struggle, forcing Kakashi underwater. Kakashi quickly swam to the surface again. What's the matter with this water? It's so heavy. He thought while climbing up on the surface again. Zabuza grinned at I'm afraid you've fallen into my trap Kakashi. He appeared behind the half-submerged Kakashi and went through some hand signs against Suro no Jutsu. Kakashi looked back at Zabuza who was standing with a hand extended towards him. Shit. The water quickly formed a sphere around him and Zabuza's hand. I thought I could use the water as cover, but it turned out to be a mistake on my part Kakashi thought, while trying to think of a way to get out of the water prison. Zabuza laughed. I told you this was my element. You give me a hard time when you're moving, but now that won't be a problem. He looked over at Tazuna and Team 7. Now then, Kakashi, I'm going to finish you off later. First, I'm going to get rid of them. He made a hand sign Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu and a water clone appeared. Back at Tazuna Team 7 was staring wide-eyed in fear. Kakashi had been captured. They were all trying to figure a way out of this mess. They knew they couldn't handle an anvil-level ninja. Their only chance was to find a way to release Kakashi from the water prison. Naruto leaned towards Sasuke. Try to distract him, I have a plan that may work. Sasuke stared back at his teammate for a moment before nodding. Sasuke faced the water clone again. He began casting a barrage of kunai and shuriken, but to no avail. The clone simply dodged and blocked them. Sasuke summoned a Fuma shuriken, casting it, hoping it would buy him just a bit of time, and then went through the hand signs for his clan's Kaiten Jutsu. He took a deep breath and breathed out a large fireball called Kaiten, Gakakyu no Jutsu. The clone was surprised that a genin could use such an advanced jutsu, but again dodged it with ease. Sasuke was starting to pant slightly. The jutsu had taken a good portion of his chakra, and he hadn't recovered fully from the encounter with the demon brothers Dobe. I hope you're done soon. I can't hold him off much longer. Naruto nodded high, just give me a few more seconds. He needed a lot of chakra for this jutsu. While he had monster reserves, it wasn't easy to summon a huge amount at once. There he made hand seals Shoton, Keso Gakakuro the ground under the clone, and the water under Kakashi's water prison glowed brightly pink before they were encased in crystal. Naruto concentrated and made the ram seal fun side. The clone shattered into 1,000 pieces, and so did the prison, leaving Kakashi free, who jumped back to get clear of Zabuza's range. He was impressed with Naruto. He guessed it wasn't easy to crystallize some, but not all, of something like his water prison. Zabuza was shocked. He looked over at the blonde genin, who was looking intensely back at him. He turned to Kakashi and asked a simple question, "How?" Kakashi looked at Zabuza and quickly glanced over at Shino before making eye contact again with the blonde genin on the team. He pauses Shoton. A look of surprise spread across Zabuza's face. Shoton. I haven't even heard about it before. Now he looked at Naruto again. Kakashi then turned serious once again, but now, this really must end. Zabuza began making hand signs, Kakashi following. Just before Zabuza was done, Kakashi cried Suiton, Daibakufu no Jutsu. Zabuza was wide-eyed. This time he didn't do it at the same time as me. He did it before me. Water began encircling around Kakashi before shooting towards Zabuza. There was too much to be able to dodge. He was slammed away by the great mass of water. It slammed him through multiple trees before pinning him to one. Before he could look around, 3 kunai flew towards him, impaling him in different spots. Kakashi jumped and stood on a branch of the tree while the water receded. Zabuza was panting heavily now. The water had really roughed him up. He looked down on the ground. Can you see the future? He asked Kakashi. Said person looked down at him. Yeah. And I tell you what I can see. He brought up another kunai. You're going to die. He jumped down and was just about to strike when his senses told him to jump away. He did so, only to see 3 senbon needles hitting Zabuza in the neck. His eyes rolled back in the head and his body fell to the ground lifeless. Kakashi and Team 7 were stunned. They looked back to where the senbon needles had come from. They saw a boy, not much older than themselves, standing. He has a mask over his face. It was true. He did die. Kakashi jumped over to where Zabuza's apparent body was, checking for any life signs. He didn't find any. He really is dead. He looked back at the boy who had killed his opponent. The boy bowed slightly. Thank you very much. I was looking for a chance to kill Zabuza. That mask, if I remember correctly, you must be a hunter nin from Kurigakure, Kakashi said. The boy stood up straight again. You are well informed, Sharingan Kakashi. He paused for a moment before continuing. Yes, I am a member of the pursuing shinobi unit that hunts missing nin. Kakashi looked, analyzing the hunter nin, judging from his height and voice. He must not be that older than Sasuke and the others. Yet, he is a hunter nin. He looked over at him again. He's no ordinary kid. The hunter nin sunshine over to Zabuza's corpse, taking its arm across his neck, effectively carrying it. Your battle ends here for now. I must go dispose of this corpse. It's a body filled with secrets. If you'll excuse me, he finished, the sunshine away. Kakashi, looking at where the hunter nin had been, pushed down his Hitaiate, covering his Sharingan again. He turned towards his team and Tazuna. Our mission hasn't ended yet. We need to escort Tazuna-san to his house, Genin nodded. Tazuna grinned. Sorry about that, everyone. Just rest at my house. The shinobi just sweat dropped at Tazuna's carefree attitude. No more than 2 minutes ago was he close to dying, and there he is standing grinning, Sasuke thought. He sighed deeply. Okay, let's go everyone. Kakashi said, starting to head down the road. He hadn't gone more than a few steps when he collapsed. His team was beside him quickly, with Sakura examining him. He looked okay. I can't be sure though. She turned towards Tazuna and asked, how long is your house? Tazuna looked down on Kakashi. It's just up the road. Shouldn't be more than half an hour away by now, Sakura nodded. Kakashi's visible eye fluttered open. He was looking up at the wooden ceiling. I used the Sharingan too much, at least we beat Zabuza. Oi sensei, you're awake. Kakashi rolled his head and looked over at his blonde genin. I'll tell the boss, Naruto said before puffing away in smoke. Kakashi raised his eyebrow. He was a shadow clone, so that's how he's done it. It didn't take long before he could hear footsteps out in the hallway along with Dobe. How can you know he's awake? You have been with us all along, from what sounded like Sasuke. Just trust me on this one, team, Naruto said. Naruto baka. Stop calling Sasuke things like that. It came from Sakura. Then the door slid open. See, I told you he was awake, the blonde genin said with a big smile. Sakura rolled her eyes and made her way over to where Kakashi was laying. It's good to see you're awake again. She paused while she sat down beside him. Sharingan really is amazing, but it puts a lot of strain on the body. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. No, Naruto said while making his way to the other side of the futon. It's because it isn't Kakashi-sensei's Sharingan. Only the members of the Uchiha clan can get it. I'm guessing you had it transplanted, and by what I saw, it was when you were quite young. The other looked at him like he was crazy. While they had slowly started to accept that Naruto actually knew stuff, it was still surprising that he could estimate when Kakashi had his eye transplanted just by looking at it once. It had also caught Sasuke's attention, since it was his Kekkei Genkai the subject was one. Naruto continued. Normally the Sharingan, or the Byakugan for that matter, doesn't take that much chakra or do so much strain on the body, but I'm guessing, because it isn't a part of his body, it takes much more. People with Kekkei Genkai are normally born with bodies adapted to it, such as the Uchiha clan, who haven't the biggest chakra reserves, but very precise chakra control. This is so they can control the flow in and out of their eyes more precisely and better control their Sharingan. Kakashi nodded affirmatively on what Naruto said. He was right. It does strain my body much more than it would on any Uchiha. By the way, how long have I been out? While Naruto had talked, Tazuna and Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter, had made their way in. You shouldn't worry about your brats. They carried you here about 2 hours ago. Tazuna paused, and at least you beat that creepy Kiri shinobi. Or the masked kid did anyway. Sakura turned back to Kakashi. Anko-sensei. Who are the hunter nins? Kakashi laid down and closed his eyes to rest. To say the Sharingan had strained his body was a great understatement. Sakura was almost beginning to think that he wouldn't answer when he spoke up. The hunter nins are a special department from the village's Anbu. They are also known as the fire extinguishing unit, and their job is to erase any evidence that a shinobi was alive. A shinobi's body will give away the secret of their jutsu if said shinobi had a special chakra type and any specific medicine that was used on the body, along with various other things. He paused and opened his eyes to look around at the audience. For example, if I died, the secrets of the Sharingan would be examined. Or if Naruto died, his Shoton would be studied and possibly copied. He looked at Naruto when he said his name. Naruto got shivers up his spine. It's kinda creepy and disgusting that another village would examine my body from top to toe just to find out about my Shoton. In other words, Kakashi continued, hunter nins will kill missing nins who have abandoned their village and dispose of the shinobi's body to keep the village's secrets in the village. He looked over the people in the room. They were all nodding understandingly. That is, all except Naruto, who was frowning. What is it about Naruto? Sensei, aren't senbon needles an odd choice of weapon for a hunter nin? I mean, they are small and precise, but it's pretty hard to kill anyone unless you hit exactly on some specific nerves. Now Kakashi was frowning too. Yes, that is odd. And then Naruto continued, there's also the fact that the boy took the body with him. If a hunter nin is supposed to erase all evidence of a shinobi, why would they take the body with them? Wouldn't it just be easier to do it where the body is? It could be because we were there, but it just seems like something is adding up. You're right. All he had to bring back, as proof, was Zabuza's head, Kakashi said. Sasuke, who had been silent until now, thought about everything they had been told. Nothing adds up. Why did the hunter nin use senbon needles when it's so hard to kill with, and why did he take the body if all he needed was to take the head and burn the rest to crisps? Sasuke kept thinking over what he had been told, trying to see underneath the underneath. That's when his eyes widened. It can't be. What? What are you people talking about? Tazuna asked, not a little bit irritated. Father. I'm sure they will get to it, Tsunami scolded. Kakashi looked lazily at the two civilians. Zabuza isn't dead. He is in fact very much alive. What? The two civilians and the pink-haired Kunoichi were all but stunned. What do you mean, sensei? You yourself confirmed that he was dead, as in not alive, Sakura screeched. Kakashi looked at Sakura. It's right, I did confirm it. Then how? How is he alive? She asked. Senbon needles, Naruto said, with a look that said, why didn't I think of that before? All eyes were on him now. It's because he used senbon needles. As I said, you need to be very precise when you want to make a kill with them. You have to hit the right nerves to kill, but there's also nerves that put you into a stasis which makes you appear dead. You're literally put in a near-death state until someone pulls the needles out. Hunter nin studies the structure of the human body to the extreme, many times more than the average medic, the Cyclops Jounin said, that's needed to make the kill fast and precise and to be able to dispose of all the parts. It would be easy for them to put a person into a near-death state. He breathed deeply. I think it's safe to assume that the hunter Nin wasn't who he said he was. First, he took home the apparent corpse of Zabuza, even when it was obvious that the body was much heavier than him. Second, he used a weapon that has a low fatality rate. From these 2 points, it's clear that the goal of that boy wasn't to kill Zabuza, but to help him. Excuse me Kakashi-san, but maybe you're overthinking this a bit? Tsunami said with a doubting look on her face. You're quite right. I am overthinking this. But that's a shinobi's job. To look underneath the underneath. The shinobi world is filled with lies and deceptions, so you need to think of every possible result and expect the worst. It keeps you alive. It's one of the things the academy students learn first. It's the iron rule of the shinobi. Sakura looked a little worried. Sensei, how are we supposed to prepare for this? It doesn't really look like you will be able to move for a while. And couldn't Zabuza drop in at any moment? Kakashi shook his head. No, he won't. To be in a near-death state like he was, he won't be able to move completely for about a week. And by then I should be able to move too. Sakura nodded. Still, you still have to prepare, and how are we going to do that when you're cooped up in here? How? Even if I can't move around too much, I can still train you. For the next week we're going to get you 3 prepared by training. I can probably take on Zabuza again, but you will need to keep his little friend off my hands. He can't be much older than you, but he is already that talented. We can't underestimate him. Wait. You can't expect us to take on another shinobi of that caliber. We just graduated from the academy. How are we supposed to beat another shinobi? Sakura, who was it that took down the demon brothers and who helped me get free when I was trapped? She glanced over at her teammates. That's right. And don't forget yourself. You may not have fought, but you stood your guard to protect our charge. You 3 are growing at a rapid rate. If I train you for a week, you should have more than a chance of beating that kid. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.